Digimon Dreamers is weirdly good. The newly available and free Digimon story that was up until now exclusive to Japan is infinitely better than I expected from what I was led to believe was a kids comedy series that old school fans wouldn't really need to pay attention to. Digimon fans have been eating the last couple years. In terms of narrative projects, we've gotten the Ghost Game anime, the Survive video game, and the Seekers web novel. Whether they've been eating good though is up for debate. Ghost Game's lack of story disappointed some, Survive's lack of gameplay chops despite a strong story disappointed others, and Seekers' poor translation and slow to get moving plot caused some readers to bail. Then there's Digimon Dreamers, a series by Digimon legend Tenya Yabano that has been running in Japan just as long as Ghost Game has been airing, which recently got an official international release courtesy of Digimon.net, localizing and dropping releases every week. Initially, I opted not to touch Digimon Dreamers for two reasons. One, because it was Japan only for about 2 years, and while I respect and admire fan translation efforts, I thought I'd wait for a potential official English release. And the other reason was that from what I was led to believe, Digimon Dreamers was supposed to be a really simple comedy manga for tiny little kids. Like if on the spectrum Digimon kid shows can range from tamers to fusion, this was a fusion. But with my first reason not to dive into Dreamers, that it was not yet released officially, no longer an excuse, and with 13 chapters fully localized in English as of the time of this video, I decided to jump in to find out if my second reason for not reading, that this is a skippable little kid story not meant for me, if that reason was valid or completely off base. So this is my honest review of Digimon Dreamers. Aritsu Koto is an average school kid, an indoor kid, hardly the adventuring type, who was one day transported spontaneously to the digital world where he meets Pulsemon, Bokomon, and Patamon. Though he doesn't understand where he is or how he got there, he instantly IDs the creatures in front of him as Digimon, establishing the world for this series. Remember, some Digimon series have lore where every human in our world knows what Digimon are, while other shows make it so that only the protagonists know about Digimon and have to hide them from the world. Ritsu knows Pulsemon in particular because it's a Digimon he's been training in his video game that just won't evolve. Pulsemon tells him he'll do whatever it takes to evolve, and soon we learn that this little guy's real drive to evolve is to get stronger in order to protect his village of baby Digimon. It's a noble goal, and we end the first chapter not left thinking Pulsemon is just hungry for power, even though that's what he wants Ritsu and others to believe. He's actually sweeter than he's letting on. Ritsu will get summoned from the human world to the digital world not by his own will, but whenever Pulsemon and Bokomon decide they need him. This in itself is a unique twist on the rules of a Digimon story. He's not trapped in the digital world like Adventure 1999, and he's not calling the shots on when to go into the digital world like the kids in Zero Two. Also, these random transports into the digital world are actually quite funny. Sometimes he's midway through bathing, other times he's at McDonald's seconds away from biting into a burger, and of course the burger can't travel with him. There's another great gag in chapter 3 when a Tanamon from Cypress Village starts cooking meat for the villagers. They all start saying things like, "Tanamon's meat is the best. We love Tanamon's meat," which is already funny for how weird that is by itself, but then Tanamon comments that it sounds like they're eating Tanamon. There's two things Dreamer's sense of humor is reminding me of. One, it's kind of doing a bridge series style humor, the way its characters poke fun at themselves and the writing, almost like they're making fun of Yabano. Two, the fast-paced visual gags remind me of Akira Toriyama's early Dragon Ball and Dr. Slump stuff, when Dragon Ball was this action comedy hybrid and not this sci-fi combat epic. We come to learn that the Cypress Village Digimon's inability to digivolve isn't from a lack of trying, as exhibited by Pulsemon, who's been training non-stop with Ritsu. There's some kind of curse on the village that becomes a recurring mystery from chapter 4 onwards. During a battle with an invading Ogremon, Pulsemon gets closer than ever to digivolving into a Bulkmon, but in a mixture of hilarious visual comedy and a genuinely fresh twist on Digivolution, Pulsemon finds he can only digivolve one body part at a time, so he'll be a Pulsemon but with a Bulkmon's head, or a Pulsemon with a Bulkmon's massive arms. This is used for laughs successfully, but it's something we've never seen in Digimon, and I don't hate it as a fun twist on an evolution inhibitor. They also say Pulsemon has the full power of a Bulkmon inside of him when this happens, so it almost feels like Deku in My Hero Academia when he uses One for All in just a small part of his body, like his pinky or his foot, to kick. We deduce that the curse on Cypress Village is what's preventing Pulsemon from evolving properly, and we set a new goal of undoing the curse on Cypress Village. Now here's the thing, I'm going to be comparing Dreamers to Ghost Game, even though I know Ghost Game's biggest fans hate when I compare it to anything, and the reason I'm doing so is because both projects started at almost the exact same time and are even further related, with Tenya Yabano doing concepts for Ghost Game characters. We need to acknowledge here that 7 chapters into a jokey manga for kids, Digimon Dreamers has just as much, if not more, compelling story and twists on the Digimon formula than Ghost Game had in its first 64 episodes. I've long since accepted that Ghost Game had no interest in telling one long overarching story, but its first few episodes certainly led me to believe that was the plan. Dreamers was quite the opposite. I expected nothing more than a silly story of the week style manga, but found after only 6 chapters, Yabano said, "Nah, I don't want to do the same thing every time. Let's build to something bigger." It's still light and it's still comedic, but Dreamers is working towards something and is taking steps towards it every week. Like in chapter 7 when they explore a nearby shrine hoping for clues on how to undo the curse, or in chapter 9 when they meet another human tamer, the goggle-wearing Joe Wakamiya and ask him what he can tell them about their evolution curse. We were so close. Joe could have so easily been V-Tamer Taichi, but Yabano seemed to make the choice and realistically probably the right call so as not to confuse the timelines, but to make our cool older tamer here an original character. He rides a Wingdramon into battle, which again could have been Taichi and Zero, with Ritsu and Pulsemon hitching a ride to experience what a real Digimon and tamer battle looks like. Joe inspires Pulsemon, who now wants to join his quest, but the older tamer tells them, "This is my own adventure, I can't pull you two in, but I'm sure a time will come when you two need to go on an adventure of your own." And we don't have to wait long for Pulsemon and Ritsu's own adventure to begin, as soon after, an Espimon arrives on the scene, having heard about the village that is home to a mysterious Pulsemon that evolves only one body part at a time. The Espimon wants to understand Pulsemon's condition so that he can sell that information to Dr. Vadamon, who is currently researching and developing Super Chimeramon. If this is set up for a later sequence, I'm all in, but for now it's a fantastic 2-chapter battle with Espimon full of great battle art and laugh-out-loud jokes. It ends with Espimon recommending the pair dimension hop to Witchenly for more information on the village curse. Hardcore Bandai V-Pet enthusiasts know that this is the homeworld of Magical Witches, the less successful virtual pet series behind Tamagotchi and the Digivices. It's also canonically the homeworld of Wizardmon. Again, Dreamers, which I was thinking was a silly comedy manga, is now talking about dimension hopping to solve an evolution curse. We also hear Espimon provide a definition of magic in the world of Digimon that I completely love. Quote, "I've heard there are Digimon there that use magic based on a high-level programming language." I like the idea that magic is really just high-level programming that is so hardcore that the average person and even the average programmer couldn't understand it. It would feel like magic to someone who hadn't trained in this level of programming. In the next 2 chapters, readers meet Wizardmon, Dreamers take on Dagomon, who you may remember from the Dark Ocean in 02, and even Agatomon and Leomon from the world of Witchenly, who are shown to us saving Wizardmon in a flashback and pushing him through a portal into the digital world while they hold off a terrifying threat. The art in these later chapters is stunning, showing that Yabano can bring it when he needs to. He's not just a guy who draws funny comic strips. This is detailed artwork. Chapter 13 wraps with Wizardmon uniting with Ritsu and Pulsemon over their shared goal of reaching Witchenly, and this is where things wrap for me too, as the English version of the manga stopped at chapter 13 as of the time of making this video. There'll be new chapters, but not for me as of September 24th. There's no getting around it. Between the village curse, the weird one body part evolution, the inclusion of Witchenly in this plot, and the dimension hopping to save Wizardmon's allies, there's more interesting story occurring here in 13 chapters than all of Ghost Game, which was presented to us as something of a darker Digimon story with its horror light influences. I'm very pleasantly surprised with what's offered in Digimon Dreamers. Compared to Seeker's English release, there's no contest. This is a far more enjoyable experience. It's much less try-hard, not attempting to be an edgy, dark story, and its localization effort is much cleaner than the first 13 releases of Seekers were that I struggled to make any sense of. Continuing the comparisons, comparing it to Survive, a story that I generally like, Dreamers doesn't feel weighed down by a council of stakeholders deciding what this thing needs to be. You don't feel multiple creatives or business people pulling in different directions, arguing and having that argument seep into the product. Dreamers feels like one person's vision, and that's because, to the best of my knowledge, it is simply Tenya Yabano telling a relatively straightforward but surprisingly fresh and unique Digimon story. It feels like the only person Yabano is trying to appease with Digimon Dreamers is Yabano himself, who seems to be operating with the philosophy that, well, I'm going to be creating this world for however many chapters, may as well have fun with it. That makes this project feel incredibly special. I'm so glad I checked out Digimon Dreamers, and I hope you will too. After reading the first 13 chapters, this manga skyrocketed to the top ranks of my modern Digimon project tier list. I still have to call Survive my favorite Digimon story of the 2020s, because to me it was the whole package, the art, the music, the story, the voice acting, and all of the interactive elements. But Dreamers is, and I can't believe I'm saying this, now my second favorite Digimon narrative series of the 2020s, overtaking Last Evolution, Adventure 2020 Reboot, Ghost Game, and Seekers. Don't sleep on Digimon Dreamers. I'll leave a link in the description of the video to where you can read it completely free, officially translated. I hope you'll check it out so that the folks in charge of Digimon see that 1, giving us free Digimon stuff is working, and that 2, Digimon Dreamers is working. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this and you haven't already. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.